Finding the blue skull on 9 can be a real challenge. It's one of the steps that can be frustrating for a lot of people, and there's a lot of reasons why. So number one, there's 12 different spawn locations. Thankfully, they're all in the same room, but still, there's 12 spots where it could spawn in this room. So you have to check all 12. The general location for each spot is kind of easy to remember, but even then, within each location, there's so many skulls, and they all look very similar. So even though you know exactly where to look, you don't know exactly which skull to be looking for sometimes. And even if you do, it brings into attention the other problem, which is that the blue symbol is so faint, you can hardly see it. So even if you are looking in the right spot, if your brightness isn't high enough, or if you're not sitting close enough to your TV or your monitor, or if you're just not staying still enough because the zombie's chasing you, you're trying to run, trying to not get hit, then you might miss it. And that's another problem, is you have to do this, if you're doing it solo, you have to do it while a zombie's chasing you. And I should have grabbed a shield, honestly. That's one of the things I could have done here that would have made it easier. So you have to do it while a zombie's chasing you, which means you can't really stop and stare for 5 or 10 seconds to try to look exactly where it is. You have to kind of take 1 or 2 seconds and quickly glance and see if you can see it. And that's why I missed it. I probably walked by the skull like 10 times, but I just couldn't see it because of all those factors. And then, so one good thing though is that the skull, if it's there, or if it's not at that location, the skull will disappear. The skull won't be there. The skull itself only spawns in, as far as I know anyway. The skull itself only spawns into that spot if it has the symbol on it. So you can see like an empty space, sort of, where the skull should be, and that's kind of an indicator that that's not the right spot. And then even if you do find the skull, you do have to make sure you have a fully charged specialist weapon, because you need to activate that to get the skull out of the wall. Fortunately, the skull doesn't move or anything like that. Like once it spawns in, it's there forever. It doesn't change locations or anything like that. That would be super frustrating. But I don't know, for some reason it just always takes me forever to find this thing. I end up checking the same spots probably 5 or 10 times each. Because like I said, you generally know where it is, but you don't know exactly. I have to end up pausing my game and watching a video almost every time I do the Easter egg, because it's difficult enough to remember the 12 locations, let alone exactly which skull it is within that location. So it just takes time. It's a little tedious. Sometimes you get lucky, and it's in the first 1 or 2 places you check. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's in the very last place you check. So I thought I should make a video on this step because it's just a unique step in that there's not really any easy way to go about it. There's not really any shortcuts. You kind of just have to painstakingly check each spot, and while the zombie's chasing you, so you got that stress of like, oh, I don't want to die right now, I got to be careful. But I don't hate the step. I think it's a good challenge for solo players. If you can get past this step, then it means you've had enough patience, you've developed enough of a good system of checking each spot, and yeah, so if you can do this one, then you can do the other steps. So that's one thing about BO4 Zombies, is that you have to have patience. You have to take the time to learn the spawn locations of each item. There's a lot of them in all the maps. But it's, like I said, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because it tests your skill. And being able to get good at identifying items like this blue skull symbol translates to skills that you can have in other maps, like maybe Dead of the Night, looking for the scratch marks and stuff like that. So if you can be good at this step, then you'll be good at other BO4 maps. And I like a challenge. I do like a challenge. So I do like trying to find this skull, because then once you find it, it's like, heck yeah, I did it. It's satisfying. Getting past each step of the Easter egg, it's its own unique sort of win. But anyways, I did eventually end up finding it. It just took a lot of time, and And that's the way it goes, but I think that once you do this map several times, it gets easier and easier. You do actually start to recognize some of these spots. And there's so many different spots that it's hard to actually get the same spot twice. I mean, you could play this map and beat it a dozen times. It could be in a different spot each time. So it always keeps things interesting. It always keeps it challenging. But yeah, I don't mind this step. I just wanted to make a video on it because it's interesting and it's kind of unique in that it's just always challenging, and it's a bit more of a frustrating step than other steps. So let me know what you think of this step and this Easter egg, and I'll see you in the next video.